The overlap of winter sports and fall sports has begun here at the University of Rio Grande. We've got basketball mixed in with all those fall sports as they head into their stretch run. We'll talk basketball on this edition of Eye on the Storm. And we welcome you to the October edition of Eye on the Storm. I'm Randy Payton, the Sports Information Director here at the University of Rio Grande, joined as always by our Athletic Director, Jeff Lanham. And as we said in the open, now we've got the overlap. The winter sports starting to ease their way into the schedule while fall hits its stretch run, and it is crazy busy.
It is, but Randy, I got to talk first about our new piece to our set is our uniforms that we've got on today, right, for our broadcasting.
Wonder Twins.
Yes, there it is. Yeah, it's going to be a fun day talking about all the sports, everything's going, and a lot of stuff going on.
We start out with men's basketball. We are joined by head coach Ken French, his team getting ready to get its season underway. And Coach, we've kind of done a couple of interviews here before the season has started, and we talk about you as a basketball junkie. You've got that itch to get going, and this is a time of year where you finally get to scratch it.
It is, but I want to apologize. I missed the memo and pulled the wrong one out of the closet this morning. So it is. It's an exciting time. Everybody's excited. You know, everybody feels like they've got an opportunity to compete. And you know, our league had a lot of transition on the men's basketball side. A lot of the best players in the league graduated, and you know, we're picked 5th overall, 3rd in our division, but we've got 9 returners off a team that finished strong last year. You know, we joked about last year at the beginning of the year we didn't know how to tie our shoes. You know, now we feel like we've progressed past that, and if we can stay healthy, we feel like we can compete.
You talked about having 9 guys back, 4 starters. One of those 4 is Cam Schreider. I think we've got a picture of him from last year, and Cam was selected to the all-conference team. There he is, a senior out of Mason, Ohio, and he's one of the guys that you're relying on quite a bit this year for leadership.
He is. You know, Cam is somebody that came in strictly as a JV player, you know, his first year, his freshman year, and has progressed through the program and matriculated to where now, you know, he was second-team all-conference last year. And this year he's a preseason all-conference selection. A little banged up right now in the preseason, but we're looking for big things out of Cam, and he gives us a lot of leadership on the floor. You know, he along with Greg Wallace, another senior, and Hadith Tiggs, our senior point guard. You know, those 3 guys have done everything that we asked them to do over the summer and have progressed tremendously. And they're bigger, faster, stronger. They're in better shape. You know, last year they all made a pledge when we finished our season, and we're in the locker room at Asbury when we get beat out in the tournament, and you know, they all pledged our season's not going to end like this a year from now. And you know, I would say for the majority of our returners, you can tell that they've had a really good spring and summer, which has springboarded them into this preseason and getting ready for the season to tip off.
And the idea that you're picked where you are, it's probably a good thing. Yeah, I mean, you're kind of in the middle of the pack on both sides of that, and you know, the pressure really is not there. You know, as being that big bullseye on your back, being number 1, but it's still you're there, and people see that you've got some returning players, and you know, got some good things for the future.
I think that that's a testament to how we finished the year last year. You know, because, you know, we didn't have a winning record. We were 12-19 overall, but obviously everyone knew towards the end of the year we were playing really well. Nobody really wanted to play us, you know, when it came to the conference tournament.
Right.
And we did all that with one of our leading scorers at the time who missed our last 9 games with the broken foot was Gunnar Short. So now we've got him back in the fold along with another sophomore, you know, who was a freshman last year and started a lot of games with Josh Anthony. And you know, we only played one semester with Kyle Lamont, so we've got a great core group, and hopefully that will lead in. And Jeff, like you said, I think that speaks volumes of the respect that our program does have of how we played towards the end of the year to be picked third in our division and fifth overall.
Right.
Your season starts here at home on the 1st of November against Ohio State Mansfield, but boy, you've got a schedule that's chock full of different events. You're going back to Kingsport, Tennessee. You've got the Newt Oliver Coaches Classic. Kind of talk about your schedule a little bit.
You know, it's challenging. Every year we probably play one of the toughest schedules in the River States Conference, along with IU East and traditionally probably WVU Tech. Those are probably three of the programs that play the toughest schedules. And, you know, nothing's changed. We've got 2 Crossroads teams on our schedule with Mount Vernon and possibly a potential matchup with Grace in the Bevo tournament. And we've got Michigan Dearborn, a really solid WAC program that's in the Bevo tournament. And then, you know, you look in the Newt Oliver Coaches Classic. We've got a league game this year with the men and women playing Carlo, but we've added an event to our schedule, the Dominoes Classic. And in the Dominoes Classic, we're going to play an NCAA Division II school in Ohio Valley. First time we've played them in a long time. And then Siena Heights, who's receiving votes in the national poll from the WAC, and they're coming down. So that'll be 2 tough games. And you know, and then you go to the show, and we're playing Reinhardt University and Lourdes. So it's going to be challenging for sure.
Nice to give your kids, too, an opportunity to play a couple of exhibition games against Division I opponents in Marshall and Ohio U.
Great opportunity. You know, we were fortunate enough to get a Division I win a few years ago, and you know, you go into those games, and it's a chance for our guys to compete on the big stage and play at that level. And you know, the biggest difference is size. You know, they're bigger, faster, stronger, but you know, the ball's still got to go in the hoop, and it's a great opportunity. Not just financially, but just for our guys to have that experience of playing a Division I team.
And they're close. I mean, that's the thing. You know, both of them are 45 miles away from campus. We're not traveling to Cleveland or D.C. as you've done a few years ago, and that's good for our community. It's good for our students to be able to come and see the games, and so they can experience that same kind of atmosphere.
And I think, you know, another thing that adds to that, a lot of our players know players on their roster.
Right.
Coaching staff, I know a lot on both Ohio University and Marshall University's coaching staff. So, you know, that's kind of a unique thing that we are that close, and they give us the opportunity to play. And every time we've been able to play OU the last couple of years, and you know, we used to play Marshall just about every year. There's a long tradition of playing Marshall and Rio, and you know, just a great opportunity, great benefit for our guys.
Before we let you go, I know we said your season starts November the 1st. You've got a scrimmage coming up, I guess, against or down at Concord. Heading into that, do you like what you've seen out of your team through your practice sessions thus far?
You know, we had a great preseason. I thought we really worked hard in the preseason part of it. Now that we've gotten into that month-long practice, we've kind of become stagnant. Some of that has to do with we've got such a gap between the 9 returners and the 5 new guys. The 9 returners, they're ready to go against somebody else. And the 5 new guys are still trying to figure out the system. But, you know, I'm pleased with where we're at. We just got to get healthy. We've got some guys banged up. We've sprained a couple of ankles on our retreat playing paintball and that kind of thing. But, you know, we're if we get healthy and get everybody back, we're going to play a lot of young guys in the scrimmage. We'll even probably utilize some JV players in that and everything just to get experience. But then, you know, we go from OSU Mansfield to Marshall back-to-back days, and then from then on out, it's every Friday, Saturday, and sprinkle in a couple of Tuesdays, and next thing you know, it's going to be January in league play.
Well, we wish you good luck this year. We appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to join us today, and good luck as you get going on the 1st.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Randy. Thanks, Jeff.
All right, that's head coach Ken French of the Rio Grande men's basketball team. We were hoping to have women's head coach David Smalley with us today, but he has got an obligation that he had to take care of. But the good news is we had a chance to sit down when we took care of River State's Conference Media Day activities a few days ago, and we're going to play a piece of that interview as we talk to Coach Smalley about the upcoming season. It is media day for the River States Conference women's basketball season 2019-2020. I'm Randy Payton, the Sports Information Director here at the University of Rio Grande. I'm joined by head coach David Smalley and by sophomore forward Avery Harper as we look forward to the 1920 season coming up. And Coach, we'll start with you. And any time that you've been involved in practice, as you guys have been for the last 2, 3, 4 weeks or whatever it's been, and you get close to the start of the season, you always have that itch. And kind of give us your impressions of your thoughts as you get the new season underway.
Well, Randy, we've had about 21 practices, and I'll be honest with you, I'm tired of looking at them. And they're tired of looking at me and Coach Bias and Coach Markham, but we're excited about where we are. And to answer your question, we're hungry. From a coaching perspective and a returnees perspective, you know, we feel like that we had a strong possibility of another championship season last year that was kind of stolen from us. And we're hungry to get this thing started again. And, you know, not to cry on spilt milk, but, you know, last year we had the following injuries. We had Lexi Wood, who was a freshman who had abdominal hernia surgery, who sat out, and we ended up redshirting her. So we don't know what she could have done, but we know that she's a nice player. Jasmine Smith had an ACL tear. She had already scored her 1,000th point when that had happened earlier in the season last year. China Chambers, which I think is one of the best point guards in the conference, she tore her ACL. And then if that wasn't enough, I think when the wheels finally fell off the wagons, when Sydney Holden tore her ACL, and at one point we were still 13-4 and in the top 20 in the NAIA when that happened. Plus we had Megan Didway, who was a senior that had compartment syndrome in both legs, and she mustered through the entire season in a lot of excruciating pain. So we just had a lot of issues going on, but I tell you what, we're excited about our returnees and our newcomers. Coach Bias has earned his pay with potentially, I think, one of our best recruiting classes that we've had in recent years. We have 5 returning veterans and 10 freshmen, and we'll talk more about that a little later on. Coach Markham's handling the day-to-day operations and just does a tremendous job with strength and conditioning, and she's also the head coach of our junior varsity program. So to answer your question, Randy, we're hungry, and you know, we wish we could play tomorrow.
We'll get to some of the new faces here in a little bit, but among those returnees, it's nice to have those type of players back to give you some leadership.
Well, it is, and once we get those players full force going 100%, for example, we talked about Sydney Holden, who is also one of our captains. She's coming off the ACL. She's been practicing really well, doing some great things, and I think she's going to be ready to go. China Chambers, junior point guard. She's not released at this point, but should be in the near future. And then we have, over here to my right, Avery Harper, as a freshman, averaged right at 10 points and between 5 and 6 rebounds. I can't remember the exact stats, but she did a tremendous job for us all year long, and she is just doing some good things in this preparation for this year. You know, as a freshman last year, couldn't ask for any more production out of her than what we got, but we are going to ask even more from her this year. Michaela Litke, solid three-point shooter that got to see some time and the experience last year off the bench, and we're looking for her to do well again this year. Lexi Wood, as we indicated, was a redshirt freshman last year, but she's long, can shoot the three, can handle the ball, does some nice things. And then we have Michelle Carter, who is a junior, but has earned her way on the varsity through our junior varsity program. We're excited to have Michelle as a junior also coming in and giving us some help. She'll give us some support at the point guard position.
And that was, again, a part of the interview that we did for River State's Conference Media Day with Rio Grande women's basketball head coach David Smalley. His team also opening its season on the 1st of November against Ohio University Lancaster. And he's got 15 or 16 kids on his varsity roster, and I think 10 or 11 of them are new. So you really will have to grab one of those handouts that I do to know who the players are.
To figure out who everybody is. But, you know, as you could tell, they're ready to go. They are, you know, they've been going at each other for a long time, and they are ready to see some new blood, I think.
What did he say? He was tired of looking
at it.
Well, we're going to move on to, we mentioned how basketball overlapping into the end of the fall season, and we get going with men's soccer, who entering play tomorrow night as they host Carlo. They're 11-3. They're 5-1 in the River States Conference. The new NAIA Top 25 out today. Rio has slipped to 14th. They've lost 2 of their last 3 games in overtime, and injuries. And good competition,
Right.
struggling a little bit. Lost to Maine Fort Kent, lost to West Virginia Tech, and they've tumbled now to 14th, and they've lost 3 games in the season for the first time since 2013, and some folks are going around campus saying the sky's falling.
Yeah, I know, Randy, and I've always said this about Coach Morrissey. Coach Morrissey just is, I mean, he is even keel. It doesn't matter if they're playing West Virginia Tech or whoever, or in a national championship game. It doesn't change, and he's still going to go at it. It doesn't matter who they're going to, facing next.
Right.
He's going to go at it like it was the championship game, and he feels good about where they're at, I think. I mean, yes, sure, he's disappointed. Soccer's a funny game. They had opportunities in both of the games. In fact, the game they lost to Mount Vernon, they outshot them like 3-1, and the ball just didn't go into the net.
Right.
And soccer is funny about that. And yeah, the sky is falling because we've lost 3 games, and you want to win all the games, but maybe this is a learning curve for them, and maybe it'll make them more hungry when tournament play does start.
Got a picture of one of his top players this year. That's Sebastian Borquez, a freshman out of Santiago, Chile, and he's been a guy who has stayed relatively healthy and one of the few, because we're 14 games into the season. Obviously, everybody deals with injury issues, but Rio's got some key figures who are battling injury.
And anytime you go into any season, you always want to say we got to stay away from injury. And he's had a lot. Probably the last 2 or 3 years, he's had some unfortunate injuries that have taken place. And Sebastian is one of those new players that's come in that has got unbelievable speed. He is just all over the place and fun to watch. And they've lost a couple of those guys right now that have lost the speed, and they've. Against Tech, there were people playing on that back line that I've never seen play back there on that back line defensively. So, and we were small. We've always been 6'2" or bigger back there. And so, it'll be good. Hopefully those guys will be able to be back before tournament gets going, and we'll be ready to roll.
So. Again, they close out the home portion of the regular season tomorrow night against Carlo. That's a 7 o'clock kickoff. And then on Saturday, also a 7 o'clock kickoff against rival Point Park. They've also got a road game at IU East to close out the regular season. And then we'll see how everything breaks out for the conference tournament. And then, of course, the NAIA national tournament. We move on to women's soccer, and we talk about men losing 2 of the last 3. Well, the women have won 2 straight after a 1-11 start. They're 3-11 overall. They're 3-3 in the River States Conference, and they're right in the thick of things now in terms of the conference tournament race. They also have Carlo and Point Park in their final regular season home games, but I think, too, they have battled a lack of numbers, be it through injury or whatever the case might be, and are playing pretty good soccer. They're arguably their best right now.
That's right, and we had Tony on this show a month ago, and we've talked about his tough non-conference schedule that he had, and I mean they struggled. They really struggled through it, but also the idea that he knew was going to prepare them for conference play.
Right.
Now the thing about it, you're 3-3 and you're right in the thick of it. 2 games could make a whole difference for everybody because people are beating each other and they're tying each other, and we've got Carlo coming in here. I think is 1-1-4, something like that in the conference, and 4 of those ties have been against the top-rated team. So it doesn't drop off, and they're really evenly matched throughout the women's side of the soccer in the River States Conference.
One of the things that has kind of funny how in coincidence with their sudden streak of success, I think we've got a photo of the Player of the Week in the River States Conference there in the red, number 21, Peyton Davis. She was the Conference Player of the Year last year and had not scored a goal until this 2-game winning streak, scored 3 against Brescia, 1 in a win down there at West Virginia Tech. And it's been a situation where because of injuries and being so thin, Coach Daniels has had to move people around, and I don't think she's actually been in the same position to where she could score as much as she did last year. And kind of ironic that in the last 2 games, when she finally does get on the board, they've played pretty well and won both of them.
Well, prior to the season beginning, he lost some key defensive players, so he had to step back and
she's accepted that role.
Right, and pull people back to protect their goal instead of extending them out. And so when they've had the opportunity, they've been able to do that. And you know, of the last 5 or 6 games that we've had, we've outshot our opponents. And it's just, again, that's similar to with men. They talk about just trying to find the back of the net, and sometimes in soccer that's unfortunate, not to be able to do that.
Well, again, the women are back in action this weekend as they close out their home schedule tomorrow night, Thursday night against Carlow, and then on Saturday against Point Park. That will be Senior Day. We move on to volleyball, a team that has also had its ups and downs. They got a 2nd consecutive win last night by taking out Salem International. They defeated Shawnee State the night before. There's a shot from last night, the win over Salem International, as Macy Rell sets up Jess Yaus, who runs toward the net. They have now won 2 in a row after losing 4 straight. They're 15-9 overall, 3-6 in the River States Conference, and kind of like both soccer teams, they've got a couple of big games conference-wise this weekend. They
do. They've got Point Park on Friday night. It's always tough. We've already played them twice this year, once in the Emily Cooper tournament and once at their place. Both good games, but we're a different team now than we were early in the season. So I really look forward to this on Friday evening. I think it'll be a really, really good matchup. And then Carlow has struggled volleyball-wise. So, we hopefully that we can, get by Point Park on Friday and go in and take Carlow. And, golly, that's another part of, we're right in the thick of things on the East Division. Just to kind of see what happens. Bellina talked to me about how well they played at Shawnee State, and just, they want to keep that going. Right. And then last night with Salem, I think that match took 53 minutes to play. I mean, we came in and took care of business. And so she said on the road, you said that's the way Midway played against them down there, that, so maybe that's what, hopefully that's going to kind of spiral into something that's a good thing happening here the end of the season.
They've won 15 games, and yes, some of those games have been against teams that they've been prohibitive favorites against, but at the same time, given the struggles of the last 2 seasons, I think you need those games to kind of build confidence. And even in the games that they've lost, both non-conference and in conference, they've been competitive all year long.
Right, and they're winning games where they maybe they win the first game and then lose the second game, and in years past it's been over with, and then we've come back now to where we've come back and won games 4 and 5, so that hasn't happened in the past. So part of that is that from that shoulder up, that head. So they're fun to watch right now.
Again, they are home Friday night to Point Park and Saturday to Carlow, 7 o'clock on Friday night, noon on Saturday for Carlow. We move on to men's bowling, where a little bit of history was made over the weekend. Reese Collins, a freshman from Columbus, Ohio, bowled the first perfect game in the program's history, a 300. He actually was Rio's second place finisher individually in the Western Shootout out in Indianapolis, but a 300 game, and that doesn't happen very often.
I guess it doesn't. It's kind of like a hole-in-one with golf. People do that, but it's that's tough to do. I want to compliment you too as a great picture that you had of him coming up right there. You did a nice job
Thank
on
you.
that
Thank you.
as a photographer. But you know,
Tough when that ball's coming at you.
I know. I experienced my first bowling tournament last weekend. I went to Dayton and watched both the men and women participate on Sunday. Fun, all kinds of action going on. My goodness, there. You know, he sent me a picture on this past weekend in Indianapolis, where there was 80 lanes in the bowling center there. So good stuff happening with them as well.
They are in both the men and the women are at the America Heartland Intercollegiate Bowling Conference. Their number 1 and number 2 events this weekend. The men in Canton, Michigan, and in Wayne, Michigan. Both of the women's events are in Canton, Michigan. We take a look quickly at men's golf. They wrapped up their fall schedule, finishing 6th in the Roger Merb Invitational hosted by Shawnee. They were 4th in the fall preview for the conference tournament, and good things happening for men's golf.
It is, and I think, again, you know, just talking with Coach Wilson, he talks about, again, playing the course and not letting, you know, trying to figure out where they want to hit the ball and not stepping up to the ball and just trying to hit it as hard as they can. That's hard to do because those guys can hit the ball a long way. But and I think he's finally, I think we're grasping that and understanding what we have to do. I think they're going to look forward to the springtime and look forward to getting back at that conference tournament.
I think we got a picture of Levi Chapman. He was Rio's top player in the Roger Merb Invitational. On the women's side, the women finished 2nd in that tournament. Rafaela Giaffri, who has had an outstanding fall season, making the all-tournament team down there. They finished 6th in the River States Conference fall preview. There's Rafaela in the red polo from.
She finished runner-up.
She finished runner-up.
Yeah.
She was in 2nd. She's got 3 tournament wins this year. Has had an outstanding fall.
Right, and I guarantee you, she is itching to get started into that spring because she told me, she said the springtime is when it counts. So it'll be fun to watch her hit them on this weekend or this spring.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. We
We'll,
got a couple weekends away.
We'll wrap up with a brief overview of men's and women's cross country. Men competing at the All-Ohio, finishing 31st and 20th at the Jenna Strong Classic hosted by Wilmington. They're at Asbury on Saturday, as are the women. They're at the River States Conference Championship on the 9th of November. Women's team really has been a struggle all season to have enough bodies to run, and frankly, both teams have struggled a little bit.
Right. So, I mean, they've got work to do, and so, you know, I think Coach Willie, I've said this before, of all the things, he knows how to train cross-country people. So it'll be interesting how they show up here in the conference standings.
Well, that's all the time we have for our October edition of Eye on the Storm. We appreciate Ken French joining us earlier in the program, and also David Smalley via videotape. For Jeff Lanham, I'm Randy Payton saying we'll see you next time on Eye on the Storm.